After a 12-year hiatus, director Jane Campion is immediately back and puts herself on the map with an awards favorite. This is my review of The Power of the Dog. Charismatic rancher Phil Burbank inspires fear and awe in those around him. But when his brother brings home a new wife and her son, Phil torments them until he finds himself exposed to the possibility of love. Before I properly get started with my review for The Power of the Dog, I want you to kick off the conversation in the comments below, whether you're excited for it, whether you've seen it, anything and everything down there. And if you like what you see here, click that subscribe button so you do not miss any future coverage on the London Film Festival or any conversation about your favorite movies and TV. I was extremely excited for this film. Not only it's obviously one of the big films playing at the London Film Festival, but I'm a fan of westerns. I'm a big fan of Benedict Cumberbatch, and rightfully so. His performance is entirely commanding on screen. He is once again incredible, delivering all of himself into this role, and so really is everyone else, from Kodi Smit-McPhee to Kirsten Dunst to Jesse Plemons. Which shows that director Jane Campion has not lost her mojo in the past 12 years despite not directing a film. She clearly can direct actors still, and she can command a story. She tells this story very well, whether we're stepping into more intimate close-up moments with our characters or we're appreciating the vast landscape and how life really works back in the year 1925. Because this film is shot gorgeously, the cinematography is beautiful, it is very gritty, it is very raw and visceral, but it's also lit gorgeously. You can just appreciate looking at the lives of these people, how it is shot through this film. And Benedict Cumberbatch and Jesse Plemons play two brothers. And Jesse Plemons is great. He's playing this very humble, kind-hearted, good-natured man, while his brother basically embodies the word cruel. He's just an asshole. He bullies everyone, he treats everyone like shit. He's the cruelest SOB around. He calls his brother Fatso just because. Anything and everything, every time he calls his brother, he's calling him Fatso, never addresses him by his name. And that naturally and interestingly creates a lot of friction and tension between the relationship of the two that only rises when Jesse Plemons brings home his new wife, played by Kirsten Dunst, and her son from a previous marriage. From here, you see Benedict Cumberbatch's Phil Burbank become an even worse person, just psychologically and mentally torturing his new family members, to the point where Kirsten Dunst has to start finding solace in alcohol, and she keeps drinking and her condition keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and Phil is just having a blast doing this, seeing her suffer, seeing how she is affected by his torment, by his coldness, by how he treats her and her son-in-law. This is tremendously interesting to me. I love this as a starting point. I love this as a conflict that is generated and fermented throughout the entire film. And Jane Campion is an expert at reeling this in, this torture that he puts onto the world around him, to the point where it's kind of pathetic, and that's a good thing. When Kirsten Dunst first arrives in the house, she's trying to be nice, very cordial, saying how they had a wonderful time traveling all the way here, and he just goes, "Oh, we had a wonderful time traveling all the way here." It's really funny, but it's effective to the point that Jane Campion is trying to put across with her film. This, in many ways, it's a dissection of our understanding and these characters' understanding of masculinity, and in that way I found the film effective because it's building all these interesting relationships, these interesting conflicts that come from these relationships, and it actually has a strong thematic starting point. But when we come to the second half of The Power of the Dog, that's where I ultimately felt disappointed and hollow by the end of the film, because slowly but surely these interesting story threads just seem to be cut off and lead nowhere. Just when you feel these stories are coming to a head, they seem to be thrown away in exchange for a more conventional ending that is not that challenging, which is completely the opposite of the first half of the film. By the time The Power of the Dog cuts to credits, I was missing those themes, those character interactions, that mental, psychological torture of one character to the next, and how it dissects their understanding of the world around them, to a point where Benedict Cumberbatch starts hanging around with her son, starts being nice to him and getting him under his wing. And I thought this was really interesting. He's going to use her son to become more like him, this cold-hearted, cruel person. But even that doesn't get a payoff, and that's what I mostly felt frustrated with when it comes to The Power of the Dog. It offers little to no satisfaction to its most interesting story points, to its most interesting beats and arcs. It has no catharsis whatsoever, unfortunately. In its first half, The Power of the Dog is an intense and somber mood piece, with a complex dissection of our understanding of what is masculinity. But in its second half, it almost spends its entire time deflating the tension that arises from what it was building in the first, and so I felt completely disappointed and hollow. I just wanted more of that first half. I'm giving The Power of the Dog a C. And those are my thoughts on The Power of the Dog. Unfortunately, I was let down by this one, but I know a lot of people are loving it, so I hope you do too. Whatever you feel, let me know in the comments below. Start the conversation. It is always the most important part. If you like what you saw here, make sure you click that subscribe button so you are always aware of any future London Film Festival coverage, and of course, any future conversation about your favorite movies and TV. Thank you so much for watching. You are the best. I'll be back very soon with reviews for Nitram, Come On, and many others. I hope to see you in those. So until the next one, love each other and love the movies.